In Janosch's Storytime, now on One, we find out whether the piglet's wish comes true.
Piglet, Tiger. I've already said it, Piglet, Tiger. Ah, Tiger Piglet.
One day, the little piglets said to their father,
"Oh, Father, we would so love a new baby brother. Please give us another little baby brother. Do."
"All right," said the father, and he went to market and bought them one. A little piglet. A little piglet brother. But that was not what they wanted. They wanted a tiger. A tiger brother. Because they had enough piglets at home amongst themselves. They whined and complained. And the father said,
Tigers were not for sale.
But because they still kept on whining, the father made them a tiger overnight. Out of their new brother, the piglet. With paint and brush, by candlelight. Oh, how happy those little piglets were. They greeted their tiger brother and kissed him. And they started to teach him the difficult parts of being a brother. For they really wanted a tiger for a brother, and not a piglet. And one who behaved like a tiger, and not a piglet. But that was actually quite good for him, too. First of all, they taught him table manners, which he learned so well that he quickly did better than his elders. Then they taught him how to be courageous, and to jump without being dizzy, and to be totally fearless, something which all brothers must learn from each other. They taught him how to fish without worm or line. Something all great masters need to know if they want to get on in the world. They taught him how to jump fearlessly into the great unknown. Quite dangerous. And when the time came for him to go to school with them, he amazed the teacher with his bold behavior, to the great pride of his brothers. Oh, they were the best-loved piglets in the whole town. What a wonderful time they all had. And their brother, the tiger, had great luck with the ladies. And indeed, was liked by everyone. It was a great reward for all their efforts. And so, it was not surprising that they wanted to see their brother crowned king. King of all the piglets. And so, long may he live and reign, both he and all his brothers. Hip, hip. And so they lived on the fat of the land, since everyone adored their brother. And this too was a reward for all their efforts. And it could have gone on like that forever. Were it not for the fact that the little tiger piglet one day happened to walk behind a sprinkler van. And he was showered, sprinkled, and totally drenched, just because he wanted to catch a drop of water with his tongue. But that was the end of all the good times for the little piglets, because the water washed the tiger paint away, just like rain. He was no longer a tiger. He was no longer a king, because his brothers didn't want a piglet as king. They wanted a tiger. They had enough piglets. And so the piglets took their brother back to their father. They told him that they had wanted a tiger for a brother and not a piglet. And he should have known that. And that was the end of it.
The hare called Baldrian, I must say.
You don't need the eyes of an Indian to see how the wild dog's snout pokes carefully above the top of the grass. Or to see how the ill-bred piglet on the left sticks his snout up to sniff at the dog. Or to see how two mangy old rabbit ears stick up over the grass on the right. And you don't need to be particularly sly yourself to think there's something up here. And that something's not good. For here prowls the wild dog's gang, which terrorizes the neighborhood.
Follow me, you crafty old bandits.
A voice that sounded like mud and gravel mixed together. Like the voice of a 13th century pirate of the high seas, who has breathed the stormy wind and the salty air. In short, a scoundrel. Not long ago, this part of the world had seemed like paradise. That was until the wild dog arrived and growled and snarled like the devil.
You got anything to say? Step forward.
Bellowed the wretched scoundrel. But nobody stepped forward. Nobody dared to venture even a little way out of his house, for no one felt sure of his safety. The wild dog puffed himself out, bared his teeth, and generally behaved as though the world belonged to him. Well, it practically did. At any rate, this part by the river did, Carnicle Land. And because they were afraid to go hungry, or even to be eaten, a few Carnicle Landers soon joined the wretched scoundrel and became his obedient followers.
Get into line, you lot.
Growled the wretched hound.
Then follow me.
And so they set off across the fields, where others came up and joined them. All sorts of rogues and robbers. They caused havoc wherever they went, grabbed and stole whatever wasn't nailed down, and generally behaved like the wretched criminals they were. The wild dog assembled his troop of bandits on a bare patch of land in the middle of a meadow, where they were protected on all sides by the tall grass. His eyes glistened meanly at each one of them. He obviously had some evil mischief on his mind.
Robbers and bandits of Carnicle Land. Today we are going to make someone king.
Bravo! Bravo! Yes, but who then? Who then? Who is it then?
Wondered his gang.
Baldrian.
Their jaws gaped with astonishment. And no one shouted bravo. For in their opinion, Baldrian was the greatest fool in the whole wood. Baldrian was a simple hare. He lived in a hut in the middle of a meadow, unprotected and all in the open and without window or door. Anyone could just go in and out to rob him. To rob him? But what did he have that was worth stealing? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Baldrian had no possessions. He didn't have a regular job and seemed never to have trained for a particular profession. No one knew where he came from and where he belonged. But wherever he was, everything was calm, which was why they called him Baldrian, because that is the name of a herb which calms and can be drunk in tea. Baldrian never got angry. He didn't defend himself if as a joke they boxed him on the ears. He merely laughed along with them. If someone didn't have time to stir his carrots in the pot, they would call Baldrian, and he never asked for a reward for doing it. He's so stupid, they would say. They could even call him out at night, as he needed no sleep. He would come if someone was sad because his wife had left him. He cared for a mother when the father didn't return from hunting. He buried the dead and played with the children. In short, he was a fool, a real idiot. That's what they all thought.
And he's the one you want to make our king?
Does he have such sharp teeth, then? Or does he have the watchful eye of an eagle, or what, then?
A black eye's what he'll have. Ah,
Grizzled the wretched cur.
after me, comrades. Ah, this'll be as much fun as a carnival. Ah.
The gang of wild animals ran off to the hare's little hut.
We salute you, oh great king.
Baldrian the hare didn't stir. The others hadn't expected this. They'd thought that the little fool would have jumped in the air for pride and joy.
Ah, did you hear what I said, you stupid boy?
Baldrian the hare simply turned his head a little to one side. Then they dragged him out of his hut and took him off over the meadow to that place near the river where the ground was flat.
Ah, oh, there's no use arguing.
Howled the wild hound.
He's gonna be the king, and that's all there is to it. Ah.
They built a throne, which would surely collapse all by itself if the wind blew. And then they sat Baldrian the hare on top of it. There was no escaping the fact that he was bound to fall and break his neck. And that would be the joke. But something very strange happened. The throne didn't move. So the wild dog grabbed a long piece of string, tied it round the throne, and tugged. And although the throne collapsed completely, nothing happened. They could hardly believe what they saw. Baldrian the hare was still sitting quietly up in the air. Then he began to drift slowly down towards them. And soon he was standing unharmed amongst them all. But they simply didn't believe it. They thought they had dreamt it all. And they didn't dare say a word about it. Nobody had counted on that. The wild dog wrinkled his brow and began to growl.
Oh, well,
He said stubbornly.
he's still king, so let's go to the village.
So they walked off with him in their midst to the village of Carnicoland by the river. And once again, things went quite differently from how the wild dog imagined they would. The people of Carnicoland at first received their fool king with scorn. But after he had been with them only a few hours, a peaceful joy seemed to settle on them. And those who had lived in terrible fear of the wild dog started to lose their fear. And the wild dog? As for him, he stalked around the village with his tail between his legs and a dark and dangerous look in his eye. Now, at that time, there was a wretched stag in the neighborhood who was digging up the fields and frightening the village dogs with his howling.
Go up to him and do something.
They said to the wild dog.
You belonged with us once, and you were also our so-called leader and policeman.
But the wild dog was afraid. But Baldrian, the little hare, stood right in the stag's path. The stag had used up all his energy and strength. But not the hare. He had hardly moved an inch. So now the people of Conicaland had nothing more to fear. And nobody would have believed it possible. Least of all that wretched wild dog. He disappeared, never to be seen again. And peace and joy returned once more to Carnicle Land. No one quarreled anymore. But nobody could say how Baldrian had done it. Without using force or sharp teeth. Baldrian returned to his little hut in the lonely meadow and lived as before on a few blades of grass. And people forgot that he had been their king. And once again, they thought him a simple fool. But as long as he lived there, all was orderly and peaceful.
Announcement.